Hello and welcome back to the Tech River, the podcast where we talk about everything to do with tech. Phones, servers, networking, operating systems, you name it. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm your host, Tim. And see what Justin did there, because today we're going to be talking about the future of Windows updates. So, let's jump right in. Now, we've got a new report from Windows Central, which is a news outlet, that Microsoft may be moving to releasing new versions of Windows every 3 years. This would mean that we can expect Windows 12 in spring of 2024. That would be fall for any of our American viewers, which is a very stark difference to Microsoft when they had promised that Windows 10 would be the last version of Windows ever.
Yeah, it looks like that went out the window.
Yes.
But
No pun
let's
intended.
I think Windows updates ever since Windows 10, they've been all a bit confusing, and Windows 11 was
Buggy,
definitely
glitchy.
Well, Windows 11 has been a big improvement, in my opinion. And it moving to a 3-year update schedule would sort of resemble more like what they were doing in the past. For example, we had Windows Vista in 2006. 3 years later, we had Windows 7 in 2009. 3 years later, Windows 8 2012. And then 3 years after 8, Windows 10 in 2015.
Why did they break the streak in the first place?
Well, I think the idea was to have Windows 10 just keep evolving with 2 feature updates per year. But what they changed, so then 6 years after Windows 10, we've now got Windows 11, and they've said they've changed now to yearly feature updates. So that would mean one update each year to get new features on your system, and the rest would be security.
Yes, you still get your security updates.
Yeah, it's just one big feature update instead of 2 smaller feature updates per year.
And the feature update will have things, it's like new features. So you might get like extra widgets or extra things in your start menu, maybe an extra app.
Yeah, that's right. But with them potentially going back to free updates every 3 years, it could mean now that they actually scrap those yearly feature updates altogether, and they just do major updates every 3 years and just provide just little security updates and bug fixes and things like that to the software as they go along, which is similar to what they've done with previous versions like Vista 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Because they never really had feature updates. It was always just bug fixes and security and maybe very minor changes and updates.
So in the past, we have had these service packs that have been added to Windows. This is mainly, I think it was for Windows XP, Vista, and 7. I don't know if there were service packs for 8.
I think they started phasing them out from 8 and onwards.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
But these service packs were kind of like feature updates, but they were more just like really big security things and like bug fixes and performance improvements rather than actually new features and visible changes.
Yeah, on Windows 10, those 2 updates per year were actually noticeable when you updated. Like, there were visible changes, and noticeable added features, whereas these older versions, they sort of just stayed the same from when they were released. And I think that's what we could be heading to in the future with these Windows 11 and most likely Windows 12 updates in a couple of years.
Yeah.
They'll still... And actually, I think they will still provide support for previous versions as well. Like, I know that they're still going to give Windows 10, I think, at least
Updates
one more
until...
feature update.
Yeah, I think Windows
2025.
10, Windows 10 is still getting like security updates until 2025.
And I think they will still get a feature update this year for users on Windows 10 because of the massive chop it was for system requirements.
I mean, Windows 8.1 only got like fully phased out at the start of this year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's right. I think that sounds about right. So, yeah, definitely. I think Tim's looking that up now.
I am, yeah.
But definitely, I think it would be a good change to move back to the 3-year update cycle so that users have certainty about when they're going to get new versions. And I know some people don't like heaps of changes on their software, but for me personally, I do like to see new features and changes, and at least then if there's not too many updates until 3 years after, you've got 3 years to know the system and know that nothing's really going to change before you then get the next update.
I just want to add in, I was wrong about Windows 8. So we haven't actually talked about this. So most Windows software has two sort of phases of life. It does your mainstream support and then your extended support. So the mainstream support is when it's going to be getting a lot of feature updates, but your extended support is like you don't really get feature updates anymore. You're only getting security improvements. So Windows 8.1 ended its mainstream support on January 9th, 2018. So that's when it stopped getting major feature updates. However, it's still good for extended support until January 10th, 2023. So
Yeah. So that's right. And I think certain like Windows 10, they name the feature updates things like, you know, the initial ones were like 1509 and then 1603, 1703, and then more recently they went to like 21H1, let's say the first half of 2021, things like that.
H1, H2.
Yeah, and that's what they've sort of gone with, and now they're just sticking with updates for the entire year. But certain, like, with talking about support, things like Windows 10, 1909.
You're still going to get support. You're still going to get.
But
your
if you're on
driver
an
updates.
old feature update of Windows 10, like 1909, you are actually out of support.
Yep.
So you need to make sure you are staying on
Please
the latest
update your
version.
computer. However, I do want to say, like even if Microsoft is updating their OS every 3 years, I quite like the Windows 11 design. Like, just putting it out there, I like the Windows 11 design.
I know it's a bit of a change for some people, but it definitely is more coherent across the entire system. It is something I really appreciate
It really
Windows management.
Yeah, Windows has way better Windows management than Mac OS. Personally, I run a Mac. I actually recently bought a new Mac, but I use a third-party app to be able to do my window management, just because the built-in Mac OS window management is kind of a bit clunky. But I mean, that is what it should be good at. It's called Windows after all.
Yeah, and I think if just Microsoft can keep iterating and making this just even more streamlined and just make it all feel
Coherent.
Yeah, continue to make it. They've got a good job, but you can still, if you keep going into menus, you will find old things that look like they've come out of Windows XP or 2000.
Yeah,
so
also the setup assistant, if you're doing off like a bootable USB, has remained largely unchanged since Vista.
Yep, and it's not even the correct resolution. So that needs to be updated. So if they can just keep doing that and keep improving upon it, I think this is a good change, and I'm happy to see that they'll most likely be going forward with this. So I think that just about wraps us up for today. Thanks so much for tuning into the Tech River. It was great to have your company today. So stay tuned for the next episode. And while you're waiting, if you haven't checked out some of our previous episodes, you can go and have a look at those.
We did our first live stream.
Yes, we actually did our first live stream not too long ago. So if you want to go and check that out, so far that's on the YouTube channel, and by the time this is uploaded, it'll potentially be on the podcast platforms.
I'm uploading it now, so it definitely will be.
Okay, so that's all good. So, and if you want to share this with someone you know who is who loves using Windows, definitely let them know about the podcast and share them this episode. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.